Hello and welcome to the Vaults of Terra. My name is Ed and today we're going to be continuing with our Primarch videos with a quick look at Sanguinius, otherwise known as the Great Angel. Now, Sanguinius was the Primarch of the 9th Space Marine Legion, otherwise known as the Blood Angels. Beloved by many for his perceived perfections, and leaving many awed at his great wings, few saw the darkness and even the rage that lay beneath his aloof exterior. Now, when the powers of chaos scattered the Primarchs across the galaxy, Sanguinius landed on the irradiated desert moon known as Baal Secundus, orbiting the desert world of Baal. He was found by a tribe of humans, known to themselves as the People of the Pure Blood, or just the Blood. As the baby boy lay on the sand, at the base of the cliff one day known as Angel's Fall, he very nearly lost his life right then and there. His trip through the warp had altered the Primarch, and from his back small wings now sprouted, like those of a cherub. Unfortunately for the Primarch, the People of the Blood fought regularly with a vast horde of mutated tribes, who lived upon Baal Secundus' irradiated surface. Some of the Blood who found Sanguinius were convinced he was just another mutant and tried to end his life at the base of that cliff, but others saw something in the small child, little more than a baby, a presence of purity and greatness that left them with no doubt that the child was different from the roving mutants of Baal. They convinced the others that his small child was no harm and took him to their tribe, where he was adopted by the Blood and given the name Sanguinius, meaning literally of the blood. Some may say that his death at the base of that cliff may have been a blessing compared to what his fate truly held, but I will speak on that in a moment. Sanguinius grew quickly. By the age of 3 weeks, he was walking and talking at the size of a child, and within a year he was a towering man, larger and more well-formed than any other member of the Blood. He was a wise and knowledgeable child, quickly surpassing his teachers and their knowledge, having the instinctual understanding of the universe that is implanted in all the Primarchs. He was also capable of great feats of strength and physical ability, destroying boulders with his bare hands and fighting off any enemy that encroached upon the Blood. Even whilst still child-size, he killed an apex predator of Baal's wastes, the Baalite fire scorpion, a massive insectoid whose poison is said to burn a man from within. Later, when a large horde of mutants attacked the Blood, Sanguinius fought them off alone, and in a rage that the Blood had never seen from him, the boy slew the entire horde of mutants single-handedly, leaving none alive. His most defining feature were his wings that sprouted from his back. They grew as he did, and by the time Sanguinius was full grown, they were mighty pinions, white as snow, and capable of letting even the massive Primarch fly through the blasted air of Baal Secundus. One thing to note is that we don't know if the wings were part of the Emperor's design, part of the mutation he received from travelling through the warp, or merely something that resulted from exposure to the Baalite radiation itself. Regardless, they gave the Primarch the freedom of flight that many envied or even tried to emulate in more crude ways. Another perk of his Primarch physiology was that he was immune to the radiation from the planet, whilst the rest of his family had to walk around in radiation suits whilst on the surface of the world. Loyal and amiable, the Primarch was loved by his adopted people, who grew from strength to strength after Sanguinius was made their leader by the tribal elders. However, despite his favourable nature, he still harboured the heart and skills of a warrior. With his leadership, the tribes of the Pure Blood united against the mutant hordes that threatened to overwhelm Baal Secundus and destroyed them, giving the pure humans peace for the first time since the world's fall in the distant past. Sanguinius' efforts were recognised across the planet, and soon he came to be revered amongst his people, who treated him almost like a god rather than just a mortal man. Not only did he possess wings, but Sanguinius also possessed one other talent. He was a psyker, capable of seeing the future much like his brother Conrad Kurz, although apparently this power was less stable but less damaging than the one that plagued Kurz. Finally, the Great Crusade arrived at Baal, and the Emperor heard a rumour of a great leader that could be found among the tribes of Baal Secundus. Anticipating he had found one of his sons, the Emperor travelled down to the surface, disguised as to observe his son from afar. When he arrived, Sanguinius was giving a speech to his people in an amphitheatre filled with thousands of the Blood. Humbly, the Emperor observed his son giving an uplifting speech that buoyed the hearts of his people and inspired all who saw him. As he watched, the Emperor was convinced this was one of his sons. After the speech ended, Sanguinius strode through the crowd, drawn by his own visions to the Emperor, hidden at the back of the arena. The moment he saw his father, Sanguinius dropped down on one knee, greeting his progenitor and pledging his service to the new Imperium. He cried tears of joy at this meeting, and legend holds that where the teardrops landed, long petrified seeds in the irradiated soil bloomed into life as beautiful flowers. With his pledge, the People of the Blood became the first new aspirants for Sanguinius' new legion, known as the Ninth Legion, and later known as the Blood Angels, with the Blood's finest warriors being enrolled into its ranks. Soon after joining the Great Crusade, in his first battle, Sanguinius fought and killed a ferocious Carnodon, a giant saber-toothed beast the size of a draft horse, during the pacification of Tegar. The pelt of the creature was taken and became the black and white spotted mantle worn by the Primarch over the shoulders of his golden armour. His chest was set with one large ruby, shaped like a heart and surrounded by golden flames, representing the great spirit of the angel and his legion, and was topped by 3 smaller rubies above it, representing Baal and its moons. Sanguinius' amiable nature won him many friends, but of all his brothers, Horus and Sanguinius shared the strongest bond of friendship, close enough to actually cause envy among some of the other Primarchs. He also formed close bonds with Jagatai Khan and Leman Russ, favouring their honourable nature and warrior skills above all else. He was well regarded by many of the other Primarchs, including Guilliman of the Ultramarines, who considered Sanguinius one of the Dauntless Few, a group Guilliman trusted most and who he saw would make his tactics invincible if just one of them fought alongside his legion. Despite his friendly and some would say peaceful exterior, Sanguinius was one of the strongest Primarchs in close combat, using his large stature and wings to overwhelm almost all his other opponents, and was at least comparable to the Lion, Angron and even Horus in close combat ability, these other Primarchs being considered some of the strongest in the legions before Sanguinius arrived. However, it was at this time, decades before the Horus Heresy, when Horus himself came across a disturbing sight after a battle, when a Blood Angel legionary, apparently having gone insane, killed and drank the blood of his brothers. Having seen this, Sanguinius killed him himself. When confronted by Horus, Sanguinius revealed the dark thirst that he had deep inside him, and that this thirst had been passed down to some of his sons, revealed in the heat of combat, a thirst for the blood of the living. Horus was appalled, and asked why he had not gone to the Emperor to sort out this flaw. Sanguinius, in his grief, made it clear he could never go to the Emperor, knowing that his legion may be purged, as the 2nd and 11th legions had been, although we still don't know what happened to those legions. Horus, horrified but understanding, promised not to reveal this dark secret, and whilst he was loyal, he never did so. Horus always valued Sanguinius' counsel. It was Sanguinius who actually convinced Horus to rename his legion from the Lunar Wolves to the Sons of Horus after Horus was named War Master, later helping his brother deal with an alien civilization. Horus was pleased by the appointment to War Master, but secretly always harboured doubts about his performance, believing Sanguinius may be more worthy of this honour. He said the following to a Remembermancer after receiving a grievous wound on the moon of Davin in response to questions about who should have been War Master. He said, "Sanguinius, it should have been him. He has the vision and the strength to carry us to victory, and the wisdom to rule once the victory is won. For all his aloof coolness, he alone has the Emperor's soul in his blood. Each of us carries a part of our father within us, whether it is his hunger for battle, his psychic talent, or his determination to succeed. Sanguinius holds it all. It should have been his." Unfortunately, it is possibly this feeling of inadequacy that helped lead Horus down the path to chaos. Later, this feeling was reflected when Horus actually turned to Chaos, and planned to have Sanguinius killed rather than captured by Chaos. Horus said it was because Sanguinius would never fall to Chaos, his weakness in his blood fueling his fear to remain by the Emperor's side. But the demon Charis asked Horus if in reality the War Master feared that his favour with the gods of Chaos would be supplanted by his eternally more popular brother, and that Horus could be discarded as the Emperor discarded him before. After Horus actually fell, but before his treachery was known, he sent Sanguinius to the Signus system, supposedly to fight an unknown race known as the Niflheim, who were oppressing the population. However, it was a chaos trap, and the moment the Blood Angels arrived, their vessels were assaulted by a terrifying warp scream. The human crew who were not killed were driven insane, and had to be put down by the Blood Angels. Still unaware that this was a trap by Horus, they travelled down to Cygnus Prime to face their enemy, to find the world overrun by chaos fanatics and demonic aberrations. The worlds were ruled by a demon of Slanesh known as Charis, from a place known as the Cathedral of the Mark, but in fighting to get close enough to him, Sanguinius was assailed by a bloodthirster of Khorne known as Kabanda. They fought, and the greater demon laughed at the angel, throwing Sanguinius' betrayal at Horus's hands into the angel's face. Sanguinius refused to believe it, but was eventually ensnared by the demon's whip, which crushed the angel's leg bones. The Bloodthirster then turned, drawing strength from a device known as the Rage Fire that had corrupted the planet previously, and unleashed an attack that killed 500 of the angel's sons in one fell blow. The psychic backlash seared into Sanguinius' mind through his psychic power, and he was knocked unconscious. The backlash was also felt by the Blood Angels, and the red thirst hidden inside all of them came roaring out, changing into something far darker, a black anger that drove them into an insane rage. They felt no fear or pain as they struck back against the Chaos Horde, destroying it utterly and purging the world of the Chaos taint. Now eventually the Primarch was brought out of his psychic coma by his librarians, and went on to lead another combat against the Cathedral of the Mark, this time banishing Ka'Bandha back into the warp after facing him for a second time. In the cathedral, Kairos attempted to get Sanguinius to accept the Rage Fire, which would corrupt him but cure his sons of the fate of the Red Thirst that even now gripped them as they raged outside on the planet's surface. However, before Sanguinius could make this sacrifice to save his sons, an apothecary took his place, becoming the host for the Red Angel, whilst the Blood Angels were cured of their rage for now, but the enemies were also defeated, killed or banished back into the warp by their fury. Sanguinius banished Kairos to the warp and vowed vengeance on his brother who had tried to trap him here. Shaken by the revelations on Signus Prime, Sanguinius departed with his fleet, leaving behind a barren world devoid of life and a dark stain on the Blood Angels' souls. Unable to reach Terra, Sanguinius was able to reach Macragge. There, Guilliman, fearing Terra had been lost, declared a reluctant Sanguinius the new emperor of the Imperium Secundus, a contingency plan if Terra was ever defeated, playing on the Angel's popularity to keep the legions together. At this time, Sanguinius was also plagued by visions of his own death, and realised that it would be at the hands of Horus, a vision of what was to come. Now, whilst alone on Macragge while his brothers were away, Sanguinius was confronted by his brother Conrad Kurz, who fought for Horus, and also had the ability to predict the future. Kurz had also seen the visions of the angel's death, and asked why Sanguinius still followed the teachings of the Emperor after they had been proven to be lies. He also asked why Sanguinius had not accepted Kairos' offer, and if he was more worthy of the title of War Master. Sanguinius denied him, but was goaded by Kurz into attacking him with his sword to show that his fate could not be changed. Sanguinius halted his sword at the last moment, and told Kurz it was not too late to turn back to the Emperor. Kurz said it was all chaos in the end anyway, and set off an explosive trap, then escaped. Eventually making it back to Terra, Sanguinius and his legion fought alongside Rogel Dawn and Jagatai Khan, defending Terra against the invading traitors. Sanguinius himself held the Eternity Gate against the hordes of chaos, cutting down vast numbers of the enemy as he allowed his forces to withdraw through the gate. It was here that Sanguinius faced again the bloodthirster Ka'Bandha, who taunted him for his weakness. However, despite being battered by the bloodthirster and thrown down before the Eternity Gates by the demon, Sanguinius rallied with one final blow, taking the bloodthirster by the elbow and the ankle and breaking its back across his knee. The traitors, stunned by this defeat, Sanguinius threw the demon's corpse at them, and the Eternity Gate slammed closed, allowing the angel to retreat and heal his wounds. Later during the siege, Sanguinius joined the Emperor in the assault on Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. They were scattered as they teleported aboard, and Sanguinius was first to arrive on the bridge to confront the traitor. Sanguinius, even in the heart of Horus's corruption, still tried to sway his brother back to the Emperor's side, whilst Horus disagreed and tried to corrupt the Great Angel, saying it was he who was the true heretic. Eventually, their argument gave way to combat, and the two fought to defeat one another. As strong as he was, Sanguinius was wearied from the combat below, and even at his full strength the angel may not have been able to defeat the empowered Horus. Horus used his corrupt powers to hurt his brother, causing him great pain before breaking his neck in combat, whilst the angel was only able to make a small breach in the traitor's armour. This was not a vain effort, however, as after his death the Emperor arrived to confront Horus, and the common belief is that this small break in Horus's armour was the chink that the Emperor needed to defeat his heretic son. It is known that Sanguinius predicted his death, and yet still travelled to face Horus, and because of this many say his sacrifice is all the more poignant. It showed the strength of his conviction to fight for his father and defeat the foes of the Imperium, even if it did cost him his life. After the Emperor was injured but defeated Horus, Dawn returned the body of Sanguinius to his sons, the remaining Blood Angels. At the moment of his death, the Blood Angels had been gripped by the Black Rage, feeling the death of their father Primarch as his psychic link to them was severed. Their rage had turned the tide of the siege, and their berserk attack had broken the lines of the enemy before Horus's death forced them off the world completely. Sanguinius was returned to Baal, where he was interred in a golden sarcophagus deep in a tomb, topped with the effigies of 2 massive angels to honour the fallen Primarch. Millennia later, Sanguinius was held in highest honour by the people of the Imperium as a saint and a martyr, with temples to the angels' honour almost as prominent as those to the Emperor's faith, and even a holy day, named the Sanguinala, was held across the Imperium in his honour. Now just some quick trivia, almost all the images of Sanguinius show him having blonde hair, but in the Horus Heresy books he has been described as having black hair, meaning his appearance is closer to his father, the Emperor. Now, whether this was an author's oversight or whether the images are meant to be stylized impressions of what an angel should look like, we don't know. However, as of this moment, both aspects are canon. So, that's everything I wanted to mention today in relation to Sanguinius. We will continue on with our Primarch videos soon. As you may have seen, we've been uploading our new live streaming videos, so if you are interested, there will be another live stream on the 28th of March. So if you want to come and see us on Twitch at 6 PM GMT, then you can look at the link below and we will be right there. You can also go there to see past episodes of previous live streams. Other than that, if you have a comment, please leave it in the comment section below, or if you have a question for me, please contact me via personal message on YouTube. So, that's everything I wanted to mention today. See you next time on the Vaults of Terra.